And are you refreshed?
Yes.
Now what are you wanting to talk about? You understand how it is that you are chosen? The power of your question makes you shine brighter. In other words, it's an energy thing. The degree of your alignment makes us see you more clearly. Sometimes someone with a very powerful question who is not in alignment with the idea of being called on, just wants to and is frustrated that they aren't, will get in the chair, but it's never pretty. On the aisle here, then here.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. My question came up at lunch with my wife and some others, and as I sat here all morning, I'm thinking about how everybody has skin in the game here. We pay money, we come here, we expect great things. At least I do. And I was thinking, if all these people were gone and we filled this room up with teenagers, because I happen to have two, how does Abraham, or would Abraham, go about sharing this information with teenagers who are so self-absorbed and texting?
Well, they are a much better room, we have to tell you. As rooms go, in that they are far less resistant. A woman said one day, she sat in the back of the room and told everyone afterward that she had been doing everything short of standing on her chair, waving her hand, trying to get called on, but we could not see her at all. Not because she was too far away, but because her energy was out of whack. And during the segment of lunch, she had lunch with her children, which always brought her back into alignment. And during lunch, one of her children said, "Mother, if you get a chance to talk to Abraham, would you ask Abraham a question for me?" So when she came back from lunch, there she was, all lighted up in the corner. She was the first one we called forward. And the little one's question was, why are grown-ups so grumpy? Which really spoke to everything. It spoke to why she wasn't being called on. It's the level of resistance. So teenagers are self-absorbed and not yet feeling guilty about it. In other words...
Here I
am. You must be self-absorbed in the sense that everything matters to you most. Esther has been astonished in the last few days because there's been something sort of buzzing around in their experience. And as Esther has been visiting with people who she thought had a particular point of view about something, she's been astonished to discover that their point of view does not include her at all. At all. It just knocked her over because she's self-absorbed enough to have thought that she entered into their equation. And it was a little shocking and painful to discover that they had been doing their best to edit her out of their equation. And we say everyone is self-absorbed. In other words, you must be. That's what we talk about. So when you are not worrying about what other people are doing, but your only attention is upon where you are in a relationship with you, that's the kind of self-absorption that brings you into vibrational alignment with Source and with all of the wonderful things that are in your vibrational escrow. So your question is, what kind of conversation would we have with teenagers? Well, it's better if we meet them without their parents, because their parents are still under the misguided impression that they have the right and the ability to control their children. And everything in the universe works against that.
It sure does.
In fact, as soon as you give up your need to control anything except your own direction in the stream, you will be a joyful being. For example, let's say that this conversation or this subject is about something with one of your children, one of your teenagers, and you see them living in a way that worries you. And so you see something you don't want, which clarifies what you do want. You worry, which makes you know what you want. You wonder what they're doing wrong, which makes you want them to do something that is good. You worry about their well-being, which makes you further want their well-being. In other words, you have created your own personal vibrational escrow relative to the well-being of your children. But then when your children behave in a way that takes you away from what you want for them, then you're mad at them. Because if they would just behave in a way that causes you to line up with the image you have of them or the well-being that you have of them, then you would feel better. Conditional love is, I will find a way to find alignment with my vision of well-being that I wish for my children. Unconditional love is, I will find a way of finding alignment with who I am and my vision of well-being for my children. Conditional love is, you need to straighten up and do something different so that when I look at you, I feel good just in watching what you're doing. Most of the world is running around talking about unconditional love, and you hardly ever meet anybody who's living it. Because almost everybody says, these conditions make me feel good, therefore I vote for them. These conditions make me feel bad, therefore I vote against them. I petition against them. I will ground you. I will bomb you. I will do everything in my power to make you be the way I need you to be so that I feel good. We say the problem with that is, there's always another squirrely one squirting out in some other way, misbehaving by your standards. And if you let their behavior be your criteria for your alignment, then you are in trouble, because everyone is selfishly oriented. It's the way it is supposed to be. So by believing in the well-being of your children, by acknowledging their own guidance system, by acknowledging the power that exists within them, by encouraging their self-empowerment, as a parent or as a mentor, as a friend, as anybody who's wanting to assist anybody, if your dominant quest is to assist them in aligning with Source, then you have done all you can do to assist them. And that is everything, really. You teach through the clarity of your example. We've interrupted you. If you want to take this someplace, we're happy to chew with you.
Like a chew toy.
Pretty much.
Here I am. This helps. And I guess what brought the subject up at lunch is that constantly there are battles at home sometimes. Battle royale with daughters and sons, 15 and 17 respectively, around these subjects. And we try to put up the fences, and they are self-absorbed, yet a lot of the things that we create allow them to become self-absorbed. Look at MySpace or YouTube or internet messaging or texting, all of which I approve of. I'm in the industry. But then they get wrapped up in that. So then I feel like, well, our job is to keep those fences on there because, okay, you got to get SATs, you got to go to college, you got all these things. So I don't want to take away from the creativity, but I still want to keep them on the track.
The generations coming forward, you have to remember that what you all as a body of people on the planet are living today, you are launching rockets forth into the future that future generations will benefit from. And the rockets that you are launching that are only desires that are born out of what you're living will be the platform from which future generations will come forth. So your children's rocket that they rode in on was different than the rocket you rode in on. And that is the best explanation of the generation gap that we could ever give you. They don't get you, and you don't get them.
Right.
And you're not really supposed to. But as parents have this distorted view that we got here first and we're smarter, and the kids have the clearer view, we just got here, therefore we're clearer. And the adults say, but I've been here longer, so I know all the problems. And the kids say, you've been here longer, so you know all the problems. Oh, that's the same thing, isn't it? You're all in agreement on that. Parents think, but because I know the pitfalls, I would be better to guide you. And the kids say, because you know the pitfalls, you're the last one in the world who should be guiding us.
That's right.
So that's where you're at odds, you see. And so anytime you say, we need to put perimeters or parameters, we need to put fences up, we need to box them in, they'll just say, go ahead and try. You can't box us in because we are born to be free. You can't win. You might as well give in to them.
I know. Thank you. I'm good.
You have magnificent children, and you need not worry about them. And see the arguments or the debates or the discussions as all of you launching rockets of desire. If you can realize that in all that mixing it up with your kids that you and your mate are doing, that you are launching these legitimate desires for their well-being. And the question is, and it's a question that the kids challenge a lot from you, and it's certainly the question that we want to be forefront in your mind. The question is, now I've got this picture of this fabulous life I want them to live. is this thought that I'm thinking right now a match to that? And when you're feeling uncomfortable, when you're worried about them, when you're afraid for them, when you're guarded, it isn't. Those thoughts that you have about your children that make you so uncomfortable, that's you not being in alignment with your source. And your kids don't have anything to do with that. And that's why they're so frustrated. They could not possibly, from who they are, become backward enough to satisfy your need. They can't go back that far that fast. They're not willing to or wanting to. Every now and again they feel guilty because they can't. And so feel how wonderful it feels for you to say to a spouse or a lover or a child or a friend, I am not holding you responsible for the way I feel. And even more liberating than the liberation that it would give to them. Think about how it would feel to you if you could say, nothing that you can do, no matter how distorted from my view it could get, nothing that you could do can keep me from my connection. I'm too smart for that. In fact, an exercise that would be very good for everyone who's interacting with anyone who means everyone. Except that one hermit friend we met earlier, but everyone. This exercise would be powerful. So get out your notebook, and on the first page of your notebook, right at the top of it, the name of someone with whom you are interacting, somebody who's been giving you some grief for one reason or another. Children make very good subjects here. And for the children, your parents make very good subjects here. And then write this statement. What is it about you that I'm thinking that is keeping me from my connection with Source? Say it in another way. What thoughts about you am I thinking that keep me from being a vibrational match to my vision of you and your well-being? Now think about what we're saying. What is it about you that I'm thinking that's keeping me from connection? Do you hear the power of that? Because it's all in your control. What am I thinking that I could change? What upstream thoughts am I thinking that I could turn to downstream thoughts about you? Can you feel how self-empowering that is, as opposed to what behavior are you performing over which I have no control that I'm having an emotional response to? Because it is never that way. It's always within your control to turn whatever is happening into vibrational alignment with what you want. And when you do, all of the resources of the universe assist you in accomplishing that, you see. But the belief that somebody else needs to be different, oh, what an entrapment that is. Because no one was born to serve you, no matter how loyal they pretended to be at one time. Even when they were born to you, you tend to say, my spouse should always be loyal to me. My children should always be loyal to me, which means they should do their best from the day they are born to adopt my worldview. And if they don't adopt my worldview, if they don't accept my religion and my political party and my whatever, if they don't adopt my worldview, then my own children have betrayed me. And we say, don't get yourself in the place of saying that somebody's betraying you when they're only satisfying their own vibrational escrow. They're here to satisfy their vibrational escrow. You're here to satisfy yours. And when you stop asking somebody else to satisfy yours, then and only then will you be free.
Thank you.
That's what your children came to teach you.
Yeah, they did. And my dog. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Your cat will teach you that. Look into your cat's eyes. Can't you just read it in their eyes? You look lovingly into your cat's eyes and your cat looks back and says, who are you and what are you doing in my face? And you say, oh, I'm here to make you important to me. And your cat says, don't waste your time. You will never be important to me. You will never be as important to me as I am to me. Or this mouse is much more important to me than you will ever be.